event today is going to be within 3 different sections. The first section will be about supporting yourself and others. The second will be about working in mental health and wellbeing, and the third is about different useful resources that are available for the alumni and students.
The thing with looking after our mental health, it's an interesting question, because I think that we all have different ways that we look after mental health, and I think different things work for different people. And I think this is why I personally find that when we're thinking about how we look after our mental health, it's really good to think about what our preferences are and also how we adapt in situations.
Wellbeing generally is kind of this complex thing made up of lots of different parts, and there are, it's not just about, you can't just say to yourself, right, I'm going to look after my mental health. That's also to do with your physical health, it's to do with your social health, it's to do with your financial health. So it's about kind of thinking about what are the different things that contribute to how you feel in your own mind.
I think if I was to give people one piece of advice on how to support other people around them, I think it's pay attention to people, trust your instincts when you think that people aren't doing as well as they normally would be, and ask twice. And if someone does open to you and let you know that they're struggling, you need to keep that mode of communication open, I think. And
social media in particular, what I saw lots of was people saying, use this as an opportunity, teach yourself a new language, or write a novel. And I think that give yourself the permission to just do what you need to do that doesn't have to be productive.
And also there's a saying that I always say is doing nothing is doing something, because whilst you're doing nothing, you're actually taking care of yourself in the way that works for you. So this expectation, the pressures that we have, sometimes it's kind of self-created as well as created within society. But be compassionate towards yourself whenever you are having these expectations.
Ask yourself that question: when do I feel most myself? And if I was only allowed to do one thing for the rest of my life, or there was only one thing I could do under lockdown, what would it be? And I think the answer to that question probably tells you something about your values and something about what it is you need to be doing to sustain at the moment, and that's the thing that you need to prioritise.
A lot of the students that I work with, particularly, they really want to be a psychologist, but it's very focused on specific routes of psychology, whereas to work with people, you don't have to be a psychologist only. You can work as a psychotherapist, you can be a counsellor, you can teach psychology, PGC for schools. There's so many different ways that we can be advocating and talking about mental health and working with mental health, apart from just being a psychologist. So just branch out, reach out, see what works for you. I would probably say it's really important, because at this level of whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate, not knowing where you want to go, it's the experience and the time that really allows you to figure out what works for you.
If possible, does anyone from the panel have any experience with an unsupportive family? If so, how did you get through it?
There is a difference, I think, in awareness around mental health this is a generalisation, but generally in people who are older. And also personally, I found that, so you can probably tell from the surname, I'm Russian. I think that kind of culturally there's maybe more hesitancy to talk about mental health. It's something that is kind of very private, and so it's not about going and telling people about what you're going through. And I think that can be similar for lots of different cultures. But on the generational point, I think that we've moved on a lot in the mental health world over the last 10-15 years. So what you tend to get is that kind of younger people now are growing up with a better mental health literacy, but previously there wasn't any of that. And so sometimes I think that unsupportiveness can come from a lack of understanding that we can't necessarily blame people for, because that lack of understanding comes from a lack of awareness and education through no fault of their own necessarily. So I think that if you are experiencing people, whether it's in your family, in your home, whether it's your friends, whether it's colleagues, one of the best ways to try and kind of push past some of that is having the educational piece.
The question is, when do you realise you need help? You are not over-exaggerating about how you feel, and how do you kind of take those initial steps to kind of self-diagnose or identify those very early stages, I suppose?
The thought that came to my mind is, why do you have to get to a stage where you feel like you're in a crisis, and then it's okay to ask for help. Why not ask for help when you're struggling from the get-go? I suppose the question of reflecting back for anyone that's thinking this is that actually, what's wrong with me just saying I can't do this at the moment?
If you're thinking about your feelings in kind of the context of am I exaggerating or not, I don't think that you can exaggerate feelings. You can get into negative thought patterns, but very often when we think I'm exaggerating, it's because you think if I told someone else, how would they react? You are entitled to feel how you feel. It doesn't matter if it's that you're upset that you've spilt your tea or you're upset that you've got a bereavement. Everyone feels emotion in different ways. Let yourself feel how you're feeling. But the other thing that I'll say is reaching out for help with mental health. I think probably, you could argue that the media hasn't helped us with how we think about mental health. It's not that you go straight to straight jackets and a padded room. There are steps to how you seek support, whether that's informal, like Naz was saying, speak to a friend, speak to a family member, speak to a mentor, speak to someone at the university, or if it is starting to get to a stage where you want kind of that more structured support, think about how you can access something like therapy, download an app, whatever it is that you need. But don't wait until it gets too bad. Treat it like it was a physical health condition, because honestly the two should be equal. And yeah, I think that's try and take that away. I think if nothing else, that mental health is the same as physical health and we should treat it that way.